understand that you've been thinking of making your own stone carving chisels. Well, then this is the video for you. Welcome to my channel, and if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I've been creating a series of videos on tools that are typically used by stone cutters and carvers. In our shop, we make our own chisels. So I've had a lot of interest in that video in particular, so I want to do a follow-up, and this is it. Okay, so for those of you who don't have a forge, which I assume is most people, you'll obviously have to build your own, and I'll cover that in another video. But right now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to allow you to get some time to get the tools involved, the tools prepared and ready for making of chisels. And there are a few basic tools that you'll need that are pretty much critical, and I can give you some examples of variations of what you can get. And isn't a definitive list, but this is a basic list of the core principles, tools that you'll need, because you'll be dealing with temperature.
It's extremely hot, so you want the right kind of tools to handle those kinds of temperatures. And when we talk about temperatures,
we're talking about in around the range of the melting point of steel. So somewhere between 2,800 and 3,000 degrees is what your forge should be able to produce. You obviously want to melt your steel. You'll want to back it off from that, but that's the kind of capabilities that you'll need, because you want to get for certain details and working in the steel, you really want to get it up to that yellow, white, hot range just before it starts sparkling. And steel, when it is at a melting point, starts to sparkle like a sparkler for the fireworks. And that's how you know when it's just a little bit too hot. But that's the range that you'll want in order to get the really good spread, because you're dealing with very small steel, and it doesn't retain heat very long when you're forging it. So when you take it off the forge, you really want it to be as hot as possible, without it being, dripping. And that's so it's all about timing when it comes to forging of steel. And so having the right tools set up just right on hand is really critical to getting a good finished product. And so I'll walk you through these basics, and then after that it really is a series of trial and error. You're not going to get it the first time. It's going to take you probably a long time just to make your first chisel. But the result will be very satisfying, and I can tell you it's a thoroughly satisfying experience making your own tools and being able to use it afterwards and see the results. And a well-forged chisel, straight off the forge, tempered, you can't compare it to any other experience of any other commercial tool. There's just no comparison. And that's why I find it exciting, and that's why I want to introduce it and share it with other people, because there's not many people in the stone industry that have this knowledge, and it would be a shame if the very few of us who do have it keep it to ourselves and don't share it with others. And that's why I'm making this video. So I'll show you some of the tools. Okay, so these are the anvils that I showed you at the beginning, and this is an anvil that I picked this up at an antique shop probably about 23 years ago, about year 2000. You can pick it up. I'd say you probably, for an anvil like this, you'd probably have to put out about, I'm gonna guess, in the range of $300 US. I paid, 23 years ago about $280 or something like that, and it was a pretty good deal. Once you buy an anvil once, it's good for life. So this is probably the average size that you'll need. It's not a big anvil. This is a pretty small anvil by anvil standards, but it's more than adequate enough for forging of small steel for chisels. This this anvil here is the alternative, and you can buy this readily from pretty much any hardware store. It's obviously much smaller, but the working surface is big enough that you can get away with this, and as long as it's fastened down to a base, you're going to want it to be fastened down to some kind of a stable base so that it doesn't bounce around. But these are good, robust utilitarian anvils, more than adequate. So if you can't get your hands on a beautiful antique anvil like this, then one of these will do just fine. And you're also going to want a series of hammers, ball peen hammers, obviously the old basic. Ball peen hammers are particularly handy because they direct the force when you're spreading the steel, when you're drawing out the steel. They help to direct the force downwards and outwards. So ball peen hammers are a good bet. If you can't get a ball peen hammer, then a metal working hammer such as this will work just fine too. And you can sharpen the end a bit more, and these are good for cutting of steel, right? So you can use that for cutting back the length of your steel. So you're gonna need some hammers. Range of hammers is ideal. You'll want small hammers, medium hammers. This is a 3-pound hammer. This is probably 1.5, maybe 4 pounds. This is a hammer. This is an old railway hammer for driving spikes that I've shortened the length of the handle, and I find it quite handy for directing of concentrated force. It's kind of an adapted use, but if you can get your hands on one of these, they're quite handy. They're about as heavy as you'll want. I think this is probably about a 7-pound hammer. And you're going to need some cold chisels, right? So these are pretty basic tools. You can use these for stone, but we also can use this for cutting of steel. So that's you'll need at least one of these, and you'll need tongs. One tong will do, right? So this is the tong. These are my oldest set of tongs. These do just fine. If you can't get yourself a set of tongs, because you pretty much find these from antique shops, although I do believe you can buy them online these days, probably new. At the time I bought these at the same time as the anvil. It was the only place that I knew where to find them was from an antique shop. And once you have one set, they'll last you for life. But you'll need tongs in order to get far enough away from the heat source, because it gets very, very hot. You'll need that for handling of the steel. Injuries on a forge are just not really, when you're dealing with melting temperatures of steel, injuries are just not an option. You have to take every precaution possible to protect yourself, so that you can enjoy the experience as much as possible. And you also need a wire brush, because you'll need to brush the iron, the steel, as you forge it. It's going to produce a scale that you'll have to constantly keep it cleaned off. So that's something that you'll need. And I wanted to show you the previous video when I was talking about these tines from a hay turner, what they look like before they're straightened out. And this is what it looks like. And these are the springs that they flick the hay. And this will make 2 chisels. Once it's straightened out, you'll get two lengths for good long chisels. So in these 3 springs alone, you have 6 chisels that you can make world-class carving chisels out of. And it's an exciting prospect for a carver. The idea that you can make whatever tool you want to do whatever you want in any possible way, custom, and it'll in any thickness and width. You can get probably about up to a 3/4 spread on this gauge of steel. easily. And this is not a hard thing to do. You don't have to be an expert blacksmith to work steel like that. And this is not intended as, I'm not an expert myself. So as a novice toolmaker, will be able to teach you this kind of skills that you can readily pick up yourself with a bit of practice. And once you've learned the basics, then it's up to you to decide on how much time you want to invest in polishing those skills. It's not to teach you as an expert, but to simply just show you the basics, the knowledge that I have, which is more than adequate to create my own chisels in any way that I want. And the reason why I don't have a forge for you yet is because I don't have a forge yet. I still have to assemble it, and because I'm busy, this is a busy time of the year, it might take a couple months for me to get the materials together to build one. So I just wanted to show you this. You can start to assemble these list of tools together, things that you'll need, so that when you are ready to build the forge, you already have the anvils and the hammers and the tongs ready to go. And so make a list, source the items, and I'll get back to you as soon as I'm able to, and I'll show you how to put together a forge. And then at a later date, we'll fire it up and we'll actually draw out some chisels, and I'll walk you through the basics. And I'll show you the basics of tempering. Tempering is by far the hardest part, and that is the most important part as well. It's because the temper determines whether or not the chisel snaps or whether or not it is too soft to hold an edge. So you want to get it in between being too hard to, and I'll show you how to achieve that. And that's that was my intention. So this is just a short video, and I hope that see you soon. So thanks for watching.